usually associate with SachinTendulkar, but that's the kind of shot you usually associate with him as he gets off the mark. The ball will just beat the fielder to the boundary. So Tendulkar off the mark with the boundary, and India 187 for 2.
Was, who's been keeping the ball up on that occasion, over pitching it slightly. Tendulkar getting over it and rolling it down, guiding it down towards the mid-wicket region for 4. So confident to play it on this wicket, which the ball doesn't really come on, but that was well timed by Tendulkar.
He'll get 4 more here. So he started off with 2 boundaries of Was.
So with Sri Lankans settling for a defensive field, just one slip, a lot of vacant spaces in that slip region. Tendulkar getting away with that outside edge. Sri Lankans should be looking in terms of attacking Tendulkar. Tendulkar still the new batsman.
Again played away on the onside. Should pick up a couple here. Oh, that's a glorious shot. Possibly the shot of the day.
What a shot by Tendulkar, just leaning onto it and the ball racing to the boundary.
Now, this is the last ball of the previous over and it's all class.
Certainly a shot that was really associated with Tendulkar and his class. Leaning onto it and the ball picking that gap and speeding to the boundary. Just not giving anyone a chance.
Just watch his head here. So still. Lovely follow through. Oh, that's another lovely shot. He's just leant into that and the ball's racing away to the fence.
Just see that elbow high as ever.
Well, looking him play this shot, you won't say he's in bad nick. Look how far forward that front foot comes when he plays it. Look at the front foot here now. It's a big stride forward. Oh, he's picked him up this time. Over the infield, one bounce and over the ropes. Just stood where he was and hit it with the spin over mid-wicket.
Those vast vacant.
Very unlucky indeed. Mohammad Azharuddin has come in. Dravid hitting that ball into the body of the silly point fielder Marvin Atupatu, and Jayasuriya taking the return catch. Now I mentioned that the same thing happened when Dravid was in that position in a one-day international against the West Indies when India were there. He was fielding close under the bat. Courtney Brown, the wicketkeeper, hit the ball onto Dravid's shoulder, and Kumble took the return catch. So Dravid will know how it feels now to be out in that way. Well, the edge found. Azhar has certainly come out and started very positively, but that was a thick outside edge. Could have gone anywhere. Certainly beaten there. Jayasuriya asked once, he asked twice, and got eventually the answer from umpire Katie Francis that it wasn't out. But he certainly deceived him.
And we see him just getting a little bit cautious here. I think he would have pushed that away before, and that has turned and
down the track, and he smashed that. Pass mid-off. It was in the air, but no chance for that man. So consecutive boundaries here for the Indian captain.
Well, I think he'd confused quite a few people with the way he was going in the last few overs, and all of a sudden I think he's even frustrated himself. All of a sudden he's decided to come out of that shell and he smashes this one away down the ground. He had a drink come out from the dressing room towards the end of last over, or perhaps the previous over, and maybe with it came a message. For goodness sake, Captain, get on with it. Well, he's getting on with it all right. The silly thing was that the way he was going before he went back into his shell, he could have been 65, 70 not out tonight and really have this game firmly in grasp.
And Tendulkar this time off the front foot. He's timed this even better. This will go all the way to the boundary rope. So good over this for the Indians so far.
We looked at Navjot Sidhu's batting chart earlier in the day when he'd been batting for quite a long time. We noticed that very few shots had been scored in the mid-wicket area. And again, it's the shot of a class player. We've had an engrossing contest.
Oh, that's a lovely piece of timing. A lovely shot to bring up his 50. Another boundary here to Tendulkar. And he's looking dangerous.
Well, it hasn't been easy for batsmen, but you've got to think of the bowlers as well. There's not much margin for error on a slowish wicket. The 10th boundary in his 50. That's a high percentage of boundaries. He doesn't really get this one in the middle of the bat. Just a little bit on the low side, but he's still placed it so well and the timing impeccable. He really is a class player.
This time off the back foot. This will be another boundary. Third of the over. And Tendulkar here suddenly scoring runs in a hurry.
Well, this little session can take the day right away from Sri Lanka. They've toiled manfully. Have a look at that. 3-4-0-4-4. All the boundaries coming to this man. And he gets boundaries easily. It's not a particularly bad ball, but he's very quickly into position, and the timing and placement, quite incredible.
Oh, what a shot. Boundary number 4. No chance for the fielder to chase that one. So very, very good over this for the Indians. 268 for 3.
The final ball of the last over. We have a look at SachinTendulkar's 4th boundary for that over. It wasn't a particularly bad over from Chaminda Vaas. Just slightly over-pitched on that occasion. Slightly wide on one other occasion. Probably one bad ball out of the lot. But such a good player. You can't afford to be slightly over-pitched or slightly wide. Just give him a little bit of room, and that's the damage he can do.
That's a bread and butter shot for Mohammad Azharuddin. No problem in dispatching that to the square leg fence.
It's a very, very strong player on these pads, whether it's pitched up or short. He can work it away with ease. And the thing is, a player of his class doesn't have to try and compete with a player like SachinTendulkar, because if he gets bad balls, he'll put them away as well. So this last 20 minutes has been quite brutal for Sri Lanka.
And that's number 6. This time to third man.
Well, I'm not sure whether SachinTendulkar mightn't have bluffed Arjuna Ranatunga into taking the second new ball. He went into his shell. We thought that maybe he'd got the time wrong, but I'm sure he couldn't have done that. Thinking the stumps was at 5 o'clock. He must have just been waiting for the second new ball and perhaps hoping that Arjuna Ranatunga would take it before stumps and that the new ball would come onto the bat more quickly and the runs would flow faster. Well, I don't know whether that was his intention or not, but that's what's happened.
That's in the air. That really surprised Tendulkar. He'll get a boundary for this. It wasn't really in control of the shot.
And this ball bouncing rather unusually from just short of a length. Finished up getting the shoulder of the bat. Even with a regulation gully fieldsman, it probably wouldn't have gone anywhere near the catching fieldsman in that position. The ball racing away to the boundary, but an unconvincing shot there from Tendulkar. A good delivery.
So that's the end of the first day's play. Tendulkar 65, Azharuddin
Well, that's a imperious start by Tendulkar, an absolutely straight drive down the ground to the very first ball he faces. That is an ominous beginning for Sri Lanka.
No doubt that shot really spells danger for Sri Lanka. There was 4 runs written all the way from the point the ball hit the bat past Chaminda Was on his follow through. Certainly ominous for India.
They'll pick up 2 here and perhaps look for a third. Good runs between the wickets, but I think Tendulkar realized it was only going to be 2. So 288 for 3 at the end of the over. That's too wide. And Tendulkar so quick to put away the bad ball. Found the gap, came from the middle of the bat. 4 runs, his 15th 4.
There's no stopping Tendulkar with deliveries like that. A lot of width. He sways his hands away and carves it past point. It's no problem at all. 4 runs written all over it. Chaminda Was, unlike Pushpa Kumar, certainly not himself.
Well bowled. A good counter from Chaminda Was. We saw him yesterday surprise Tendulkar with a ball like that. This one was on the body, and that was very well bowled.
This is why Chaminda Was is such a good bowler. He can always surprise, put in that surprise delivery, bends his back and gets a little bit of bounce, puts Tendulkar in a bit of an awkward spot.
Very well struck. Pushpa Kumar tongued in the ball in, but its line wasn't good. It was down the leg side. Needed it to be much closer to the body. Another 4 for Tendulkar.
The bouncer could be a good delivery, but if it's a little bit too short, one can get punished severely by players like Tendulkar. That time, Pushpa Kumar straying down the leg side. Tendulkar very much in position and hitting it past the fine leg for 4.
And there are 2 men out there, so he bisected them. There's the hook shot. There's one fine, there's one just backward of square. And he found the gap between them. Glorious stroke. Back foot through extra cover 4. Not an easy stroke to make, and how well Azharuddin made it.
Pushpa Kumar dropping it short, and also a lot of width for Azharuddin, dispatching it into that empty area between extra cover and mid-off.
And driven through extra cover. Not timed it as well as he would have liked, but he still pick up a couple of runs here.
Tendulkar not really timing that. He's got 16 boundaries so far and shown the class that he's made of.
Down the track and straight over the bowler's head. 1 bounce over the rope. So really attacking mood here, Tendulkar. Again, very good use of his feet.
So Tendulkar, from the time he got in, has been in a very positive state of mind. The wicket that was a bit slow did not bother him at all. His timing has been perfect, and on that occasion, right through with it and time it beautifully. Just 1 bounce and for a boundary.
And he's blazed this through the offside. Another boundary for the former India captain.
Bowling on a wicket like this, you cannot much, but when you have 2 class batsmen of Tendulkar and Azharuddin, you got to be even more careful. And that was a free hit for Azharuddin.
This is where he's so good. It's not an easy shot to play. He's flicked that from middle and off stump through the onside.
Strong wristy player that Azharuddin is. looked very easy, but that's the class he has.
And a little lucky there, Azharuddin, getting the inner edge, just missing the stumps, getting a boundary as well. So nothing going right for Sri Lanka here. And more runs here. This could be another boundary. So very expensive over this for Sri Lanka. 18 runs coming off that. It's 329 for 3. So that's 50 for Mohammad Azharuddin. He's been in good nick on this tour of Sri Lanka. 2 scores of 80 in the Asia Cup just concluded, and now again another 50. So bowling change here. Jayant Silva now being introduced into the attack. And starting by bowling over the wicket. Way offline here. Beats the keeper as well. So 2 byes. And very lucky, Saleh, on that occasion that the ball didn't hit the helmet.
That's right. Must have quite frustrating for the skipper to see his frontline left-arm spinner stuff bowling wide, way off. And
that was close, and immediately Kalu Vitarna after that ball went and shifted the helmet by another foot.
Much, he's on 98, so anything outside off stump will probably bring him his 100. There it goes. He should come back for 2. Azharuddin will make it. There's his 12th Test century. It's his 3rd one against Sri Lanka, and coming against the tide. He's been out of form in recent times, but he looked to be a man in very strong form yesterday when he came to the wicket, and that's a very fine 100 from the Indian captain.
yes, a bit of slack fielding gave him that additional opportunity, and then Murali just throwing this one up, and SachinTendulkar, quality player, just easing it into the gap. You can see him just opening the face, pushing it wide of mid-off, enabling him to get 2 in his 12th 100.
Again, such a wristy player, Azharuddin. He's picked this ball from outside the leg stump and hit it square of the wicket on the offside. On the television set, it might look a very easy shot, but I'll tell you what, you've got to have very supple wrists to be able to play those kind of shots.
One might at times think that the Sri Lankans are in fact playing into the hands of the Indians by playing so defensively, just allowing the Indians to pick up the singles and not take any chances on the big hits, losing.
Oh, that's a good piece of fielding by De Silva. He saved a boundary there. That was firmly hit by Tendulkar off the back foot.
One of those rare bad deliveries by Muralidharan, dropping it short. Tendulkar giving himself room and trying to hit it into the offside where there are just 2 fielders protecting it, but De Silva very quickly across. Good save.
And pulled away by Tendulkar. Couple of runs for him. Chaman Dawaz does the fielding in the deep.
This time he slashes away, makes a bit of room for himself. Only the 2 fielders on the offside, and I don't think that one's going to be stopped from getting to the boundary.
The first attacking stroke by the Indians after lunch. A bit of extra air, a bit of width for Azharuddin. And angle bat down towards the point region. So the Indians willing to play a waiting game as well, pushing the singles. But on that occasion, Azharuddin been able to steer that down towards the point boundary.
That's a new record partnership for the 4th wicket, surpassing Gavaskar and Azharuddin at Kanpur in 86-87. Partnership now 164 for this wicket. That's against Sri Lanka, of course.
And he's likely to get his first boundary for some time. So SachinTendulkar finally just breaking the shackles, allowing himself a little bit of freedom to put away a half volley.
Yes, and we see the ball just given that much more flight, and Tendulkar, you couldn't play it much better than that. Beautifully through the ball. You can see the bat just flowing straight through. Beautifully placed. His first boundary since he's got his 100. Flighted delivery, even though it just turned a little bit, it was that full. He was able to get his foot right to the pitch of the ball and hit straight through it.
So Azharuddin moves on to 99, within one of becoming the third century maker in the innings. I have to hurry, and if that ball had hit the stumps, it would have been Azharuddin run out 99. Instead, it's Mohammad Azharuddin not out 100, his 18th Test 100. Applause from his fellow players and from Indian spectators around the ground. And Azharuddin back with a bang.
Yes, he had a dress rehearsal, the one before, couldn't put it away, and that one he really didn't put it away all that well either. But just good enough. We'll see here if that had hit. I think Azharuddin might have been on his way. A little bit of excitement for the spectators, but Mohammad Azharuddin, 18th Test match 100. And only Sonny Gavaskar with 34 has more, as we see there. Becomes the second highest century scorer in Indian Test history.
That was beautifully struck by SachinTendulkar, giving himself a little bit of room. Jayantha De Silva flighting that ball slightly, realizing that SachinTendulkar was not coming out, but SachinTendulkar equal to the task, picking that open space and hitting it for 4.
I think we're likely to see a little bit more of this action now from the Indian batsmen. The total on 444. Both batsmen well set and past their 100. I think they might take the odd risk now and look to try and hit inside out, as SachinTendulkar did on that occasion. Takes him to 137, and 20 of them are boundary 4s.
So once again, SachinTendulkar, that time with Jayantha De Silva dropping it short. SachinTendulkar going back on the back foot, punching it over mid-on for 4. So end of the over, India 448 for 3. That's hit up in the air, and there's Mahela Jayawardene, a very well judged catch. SachinTendulkar losing concentration to that flighted delivery of Muralidharan, trying to hit it over the bowler's head, and Mahela Jayawardene at long on, running across and holding on to a very well judged catch.
Well, that's the end of a very good innings from the Indian captain. Showed great restraint and concentration, but just the last over he showed signs of wanting to get on with it. Jayawardene running around from mid-on, takes a well-judged catch, and that was some justice there for the bowling of Muralidharan. He's done a great job in difficult circumstances for his team, but all credit to SachinTendulkar, one of the best players in the world of cricket at the moment, and that was an innings of great quality from him. Following a period of rather indifferent form, it was a captain's knock and puts his team in a very strong position at 451 for 4.
Full toll of that. Tried to bowl a slower ball there and didn't really follow through.
Most times he's bowled a good length. That's nicely played by Azharuddin. A long chase again for De Silva. And the ball just beats him. That was a real teaser for him.
Yes, one of the few deliveries just a bit too short, giving Azhar plenty of time to get back and just angled beautifully. He does use those wrists beautifully.
And good catch. First ball off the tee, and Murali hangs on to the drive from Azharuddin. He is such a good catcher, and that one was flying to him, and he grabbed it with no difficulty at all. So Azharuddin's innings, the third century maker for India, ended first ball off the tee.
So intentions clear from the Indians. They were trying to get on with it. Very first ball, Azharuddin dragged it onto that one. Murali holding that back a bit of flight, and a sharp return to Murali, which he clung on to.
So 479 for 6 as Azharuddin goes for 126.